When I grew up, I wanted to be a superhero. I wanted to have special powers. I wanted to do the impossible. And I have two young daughters today, Alexandra and Athena, and I can see that they're thinking the same way. So they want to go to Mars. They want to go underwater. They want to create impossible things. And with virtual reality, for the first time ever, they can go to Mars before Elon Musk. And they can go underwater, meet some incredible sea creatures, just like Jacques Cousteau. But I'm here to talk about virtual reality. And the perhaps most exciting thing with virtual reality is that it's not about the future. It is already here. It's a great opportunity for investors, for entrepreneurs, and for developers. So I want to talk about the real superheroes, the people who are going to make this happen, and imagination coming much closer together. And through technology, we create this portal where you can go through and experience anything. So probably when you heard about the Vive, you were thinking about a headset. But actually, we have evolved. So we have technology, we have a marketplace, we have a studio, and then we have an accelerator. So I thought I'll tell you a little bit about it and then show you some of the super exciting opportunities for you as entrepreneurs and as investors. So the thing that makes this possible is technology. And what happens is that you put something on your head which immerses your visual system, your auditory system, but also with the Vive you can move around in what we call room scale and interact with virtual reality. So what happens is that since most of your senses see the virtual world, your brain thinks that that's the real world. So even if you are on top of Mount Everest and you can sort of feel your barefoot feet on the carpet, and you know it's not cold, your brain still thinks that it's more credible that you're on top of Mount Everest. So what's happening is that it's not just about the headset, it's actually a platform of technology. It's an ecosystem evolving. So let me give you some examples of what's happening in the industry. So first of all, you have something called a tracker. It's a universal piece of technology that can be tracked in the 3D space. You can put this on a tennis racket, and the tennis racket will emerge in VR, or your golf clubs, or your running shoes, or a gun, or whatever it might be. What happens when you track in your 3D space, a couple of things can happen. So one of the things one company did was that they put it on your shoes. So my kids, they would love that because you can have dancing applications. But when you track your feet, you can basically have a full body avatar. And when you have a full body avatar, you create something social as well because you can see the other party. So let me show you what this company did. So here you can see the person in VR, and then you can see what they see. So you can see your own body, and then he starts interacting. This is a very simple game. You basically have to avoid things or jump over things. But I think you can very quickly see that he certainly believes he's there. Maybe we can increase the volume a little bit. So this is one example on how this tracker, and the reason why it's so brilliant is that if you are a developer, you develop for this one piece of tracker, and then you can put it on a gun, or this tennis racket, or your shoes. You basically develop for one device. And as a consumer, you only buy one device and it will work for everything. So you don't have fragmentation in the market. The other thing, which my favorite experience is that when you're in VR, not everyone have a headset. So this team came up with a solution where you use your mobile phone. You put a tracker on the phone, and then through the phone, you have a window into the virtual world, so that you can basically see what the person in VR sees. In this example, it was a shooter, so that as the hero in VR, you were shooting, but your friends in the sofa in the living room, you could be up to 4 of them, use their mobile phones, and they could be sidekicks, seeing what you see, but also helping out defeating the aliens. So new types of hybrid virtual reality experiences is on the move. Another thing is eye tracking. So I believe that the eyes will be the game changer for virtual reality. And a couple of reasons for that. One is that once you track your eyes, you can actually see what people are looking at. So in a social context, that's very, very important because eye contact is so important for us. But also, you can create heat maps on what people are looking at and interacting with that. That provides very valuable information. But also for us to navigate through various kinds of menus and things like that, just using our eyes and not having to move and click, just using our eyes to navigate, and actually the computer will know what we want. This is going to be a game changer. So other piece of technology is wireless. One of the complaints has been that, oh, you have to have a wire. So one of the startups companies we funded is TPCast, which is a little thing on top of his head, which means that you don't have to connect your high-end VR headset to a PC with a cord. But there are other things. There are like haptic suits. There are all kinds of social experiences. So it's kind of exploding with all kinds of technology. The important thing with this technology is that it doesn't just have to be gaming. This could be used for construction, for design, for education, for many, many purposes. So what we've done is that we created something called ViveX. ViveX is our accelerator. We're in 2 places in China. We're in Taiwan. We're here in San Francisco, and we're in Israel. So we put $100 million off the balance sheet. So we started a year ago. We've done over 60 investments already, so we're probably one of the more active. And we're looking for more startup superheroes that we can help grow. We're primarily looking for enabling technologies and services that have a multiplicative effect. So for example, eye tracking that every developer can use. We also partnered with some of the big guns in the VC industry and founded something called VR VCA, the VR Venture Capital Alliance. So it's over 40 members, and we're looking for more, with over $18 billion in available capital. We meet bi-monthly, so if you're a startup, this is a great way to pitch to many VR-interested VCs. And with VR, it could be VR, it could be AR, MR, or whatever R you are. So the way I see it is that throughout time, we had some technology revolutions. I mean, we looked at the PC, the web, the mobile, and in the beginning of all these curves, there was the early adopters, the gamers, the geeks. But if you think about it, it wasn't necessarily gaming that made the PC big or the web big. And looking out of you on your mobile phones, you're probably taking photos and social media and other things. Of course, it's gaming, but it wasn't necessarily what made the platform big. So when it comes to virtual reality, we are essentially in year 1 of this edition of virtual reality. So it is the early adopters. It is the gamers who have the PCs, who want to have these immersive experiences. But it's not going to be gaming that make VR big. It's going to be other categories. We don't exactly know what they are, but we know that exploration and education is a fantastic opportunity. We know that creativity, design, and designing in 3D is the way to design. Why would you design 3D on a 2D screen? It doesn't make any sense. And also, social is probably going to be the most social. And social is not just Facebook. Social is collaborative. It's basically working with your team on projects in 3-dimensional space. We see Hollywood and the whole entertainment industry. We're not just going to look at 2D screens. We're going to be the hero in the movie going forward. And of course, shopping and all kinds of commercial experience. As a Swedish person, I'm finally going to get rid of the IKEA catalog, and I'm going to walk into the catalog and design my rooms before I buy them. So we have this technology, and it's interesting because it's not just the computer graphics world. You also have the cinematic world coming together. So today, with technology, you can actually capture the real world very, very realistically. Could be Björk as a star, so she can appear as a lifelike avatar, but you can capture the entire world. Some of you have seen Google Earth, but Google Earth in VR is amazing. So let me leave you a quick peek how you actually capture the entire world. Let's have a look. Maybe some sound. So we're only in the beginning, and it's interesting. Can you guess what is the most looked after place on the planet when people go online? Can you guess? Anyone? Shout out. Great Wall. So people from China here, go China. Anyone else? Golden Gate. Go San Francisco. So actually, I think it is your home address. People would love to go back and see where they grew up. So probably the resolution is not great, but it's interesting how you actually go back to your roots and sort of see how it is. So where do you find all these experiences? So what we have done is we created something called Viveport, which I run. So Viveport, think of it as the place where you go to find virtual reality experiences. In the future, will be AR experiences. And it doesn't matter if you're using it at home or at work or mobile or in an arcade. So let me talk to you a little bit about these opportunities. One of the things which we found interesting is that people are not consuming so much virtual reality content, and there is not a lot of content yet. So one of the things we tested, which will be interesting to see, is subscription. So today, when you listen to music, you probably subscribe to Spotify or Pandora or something. So you went from CD-ROM, downloading MP3 files, and subscribing. Same thing happened probably on your video consumption to Netflix, HBO, or something. So we believe the way you will consume virtual reality experiences will probably be something similar. So we're testing subscription, where you can have your favorite applications for a low monthly fee of $7. The other thing which is happening is that we need to accelerate the ecosystem. So we created something called Vive Studios, where we are investing in developers' content. So if you have a piece of content that you want to have developed, we could fund that. So we don't invest in the company, we invest in the content project. We're especially looking for things in education, enterprise, some of the other verticals that is not necessarily going to happen by itself. One interesting example, we launched something called Make VR, where you can go into virtual reality, you can create three-dimensional objects, and then you can 3D print them through either your own 3D printer or some of the external services available. So there was just now, last weekend, a Makers Fair in San Francisco, where thousands of people who create all kinds of crazy stuff will use this technology. The other thing which is happening, how many here went to an internet cafe? Hand up. Some people. So in the early days, what happened? People didn't have access to the internet and broadband, so we went to cafes to connect and send emails. The same thing is happening with virtual reality. Not everyone have access to virtual reality. So what is happening is that those arcades at your cinema are getting a VR headset. It's coming into things like shopping malls, libraries, and there's got a lot of dedicated VR arcades. So this, for example, is from IMAX in LA, and this is MK2 in France. So public VR is happening really, really quickly, and it's a great opportunity for not only developers to monetize, but also for small businesses to start up. The problem we're solving here is that most of the VR software today is like movies. It's for personal use, which means that you and I couldn't have 10 DVDs and start a cinema. You actually have to have a license for commercial use. So that's something we provide. So we have over 600 titles, and we have hundreds of locations active, and we're doing a pilot in 15 countries now. So if anyone wants to start a VR arcade, this is the time. Of course, I think that the reason that most people will come into contact with VR very soon is not just at home. It is in public places. When you go to IKEA, you're going to use VR to build your kitchen. When you go to BMW or Tesla, you're going to put on your headset and not only build your car in VR, but you will actually drive your car in VR. So it's going to be a much more immersive experience. Before you go to Hawaii on vacation, you're going to check out the hotel and your destination. So it's coming to your store, it's coming to your work, and it's also coming to our schools. One example I want to give is how VR is being used in marketing. So this is Nissan, and they're trying to give you a unique, very cool way of driving their awesome cars. So let's have a quick look. So if you're a Star Wars fan, buy Nissan. But VR is not just about commercial stuff. I think it was in a Spider-Man movie, someone said, with great power comes great responsibility. So we created something called VR for Impact. So earlier this year in Davos, we partnered up with the United Nations to create VR for Impact. So United Nations have these 17 sustainability goals where basically problems we have to fix for our planet around poverty, climate change, equality. And if we don't do that, it's kind of game over 2030. So what we want to do is we want to bring together causes and developers to create experiences to drive awareness on what's happening in the world when it comes to climate change, poverty, and other issues. We had Earth Day just a couple of weeks back. And I want to give you one example on what we're doing and what we're looking for. So if you have some connections, please contact us. One of the grants recipients was Space VR. So what they did is that they have built this satellite, a virtual reality camera satellite. They have it placed on SpaceX later this fall, and they're going to send it up into space. And the reason they're doing that is that when every astronaut comes back to Earth, they kind of changed because they got this unique perspective on our planet. They see that the fragile atmosphere layer could be easily destroyed and we're all dead right away. They see that there are no borders, so if it is the Trump administration or some problems in Europe, it doesn't really matter. We're all one people, we're all one planet. Doesn't matter color, doesn't matter religions. And I think it's that kind of experience, what they call the overview effect. So the idea with virtual reality is by sending this camera up, all of you could become astronauts. All of you could have the overview effect. And all of us together can realize that we're one people and we need to take care of our planet. So with that, let's create the future together. Thank you very much for your attention.